those of you that are coming to this demo, in your schedule it shows that it's Larry Carl's doing a coyote demo. Larry canceled out, he couldn't be here. So I'm just kind of filling in, and my intention, once I knew that Larry couldn't be here, and I'm not a big coyote guy like Larry is, and so, but I have trapped for, this will be my 66th season coming up. So I've got 65 years behind me of trapping, and in that time period I've learned a few things. So what I thought I would do is talk about some of the things that I've learned and show you some of the things that I do and some of the things that I use and why I use them and things like that. And I'm just going to just randomly go through some things, and I guess I'll start with unloading some stuff here. You might wonder what's in here. In here it says trap parts. Now, I'm mainly a water trapper, so I trap a lot out of a boat or out of a canoe. If I'm trapping nuisance beaver for a farmer, I will trap out of my pickup. But I've always got this with me, and it's a screw top pail that's got a seal in there to keep it waterproof. So if I'm in the boat, I don't have to worry about anything in here getting wet. And in here, I don't have just spare parts. I've got other things. I'm a strong believer in carrying stuff with you that is going to help you out. If you get wet out on a trap line in the November, December, you need to dry up. I almost always carry a complete change of clothes in my vehicle, and I've got a bigger dry box in my boat that I carry a complete change of clothes. A little funny story, myself and another guy were trapping on the Des Moines River many, many years ago, down on the Missouri border. And we pulled into shore to make some sets, and for whatever reason, he jumped out of the boat, and he's wearing hip boots. And I don't know if he thought it was shallow there, but it wasn't. And he's in the water up to his chest. And this is a really poor day weather-wise. We got a strong breeze. The temperature is just above freezing. It's clouded over, there's no sun, and he is freezing. I mean, instantly, he's soaked. So what are you going to do in a situation like that? What we did was we built a fire, took time out, and he stripped down, wrung out all of his clothes, and he was wearing wool long underwear, thank goodness, because wool will retain body heat even when it's wet. So I almost always in the winter, during trapping season, when I'm out on the trap line, I'm wearing wool. There's been many times I've been wet. I didn't jump in like he did, but anyway, in this dry box, you can see I wear glasses, so I often splash and I get my glasses dirty. So I got a clean cloth to clean my glasses. I carry a spare pair of gloves. I carry another spare pair of gloves, and I'll talk about them a little bit more to begin with. In fact, I can do it right now. Of all the gloves, over all the years, I currently use this type of a glove. Now, the Edmund gloves that we've all grew up with, if you've been around for a while, they come up, the black ones. Nothing wrong with them. They're good gloves. I'd go through a pair or two a season. Currently at home, I probably have 30 or 40 pairs of them with various stages of patches and holes and whatever. So one time, I don't know why, but I got a pair of these gloves and I tried them and I really liked them. They go on super easy. They stay up, whereas the Edmunds were always I'm always reaching up there and pulling up the Edmonds. These stay there. These are thin, they're lightweight, you got lots of feel. I really like them. Now, when it gets really cold, you don't want to have cold fingers. So I take just a regular brown jersey glove. And I put that brown jersey glove on, and I put, when I'm trapping under the ice, and I do trap a lot under the ice. I can trap all day long, and there we are. My hands are warm, they're insulated, I still got some good feeling, and now actually I have a couple pairs of these. So when I get in at night, first thing I do is I'll pull these out, and I'll set them someplace where they're going to dry, but I also carry extra pairs of these. I'll turn these inside out, just like that, and they'll sit there, and they'll sit there for at least 24 hours, because the next day I take a different pair with me. And I also have a spare pair with me, okay? Because when you put a hole in one, then it's miserable, okay? Now they do make insulated gloves, and I can't remember the name of them, but I got a pair one time of the long ones that are insulated. I think they were blue, heavy insulation inside, and I was wearing them. And the first thing I noticed was that my hands were sweating. And then when I tried to take them apart, take them off, they come inside out. I mean, it was a mess. I wouldn't never recommend them. So,
Cumberland Silk.
Also Funky.
Okay.
The last ones I've bought, I've got from Funky. So this is my go-to gloves all the time. I really like them. Now, you saw, I did pull these out of here. That's just a backup pair in case something goes bad. I carry an extra hat, just in case my hat gets wet. Parts are in here. Another pair of gloves. I'm big on keeping my hands warm. In my spare parts, I've got an S-hook tool. I keep another cable cutter. I keep, well, you can see I've got a little bit of everything in there. I even have extra pans in here. Pans and nuts and bolts and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And a little first aid kit, as you'd never know when you're going to get yourself dinged. I carry some extra snares and some extra other cable stuff in here. So that's what I carry in this, and it's always in the vehicle or it's in the boat with me. So it's just a precaution for when you need stuff. Other things I want to talk about. Let me get this out of the way right. Well, let me get this out of here first. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fur handling also. I use a lot of dog proofs, and I've got every brand that there is. And I don't have a recommendation on to what brand to use because they all work good. I haven't found, well, I shouldn't say that. There's been some big clunky square ones in the past that I bought, and I wouldn't recommend them. Let me just pull stuff out of here and then I can get it put back in as we go. You all know that's a DP setter. I don't buy these. I'm a cheap guy. When the DPs first came out, and I started buying DPs when they first came out, and I liked them, and I've learned a lot about DPs. But back in the day, I could easily, and I still can if I have to, I can set these by hand. You know, most of you can. But I'm older now, I'm 77 years old. So I'm not nearly as strong as I used to be. So I've learned that at first I used a screwdriver. I took a screwdriver and I bent the end around so that I could hook it in there and push that down. Well, somewhere I saw at a convention somebody had something similar to this, and I thought, I can make that, save me some money. And what this is a coyote stretcher where the hooks went bad. And I cut that coyote stretcher down and I bent it, and then I cut some grooves on the grinder, and that is so much easier now. But also it doubles. To me, there's a lot of different baits you can use in these dog proofs. Now, let me give you some numbers. The last 2 years I haven't trapped as hard as I used to. But up until then, I'm normally running about 1,000 coon a season. All right? And it used to be all mostly with my fish stick set, which I'm the guy that invented that. But when I started using DPs, as the time went on, I started getting more and using more and using more, to the point that now, the last few years that I was catching 1,000 coon a season, about half of them are coming out of DPs. And I'm a water trapper. Now, I do use a lot of these on dry ground, but I'm mainly water trapping. So I use fish. My bait is fish. And I'll cut up the fish into small chunks, and I impale that fish on the trigger. So I reach into my container and I use this like a chopstick. I'll get a little piece of fish in between there and I'll squeeze it, hold it on there, and I'll bring the trigger up and I'll put that in there and put that on that trigger, and it's quick. It's not like trying to use your finger to place something on. Anyway, and then I set the trap. As water trapping with these DPs, almost all of them are set up on drowners. When I'm running heavy on a water, a river or a creek, whatever I'm doing, I'll almost always set 2 fish stick sets at a stop and at least 1 DP. So I got 3 sets there, and all almost within touching distance with each other. I keep them far enough apart so that the animals can't fight between themselves. But in a fish stick set, you'll catch, very often you catch 2 coon at 1 set. So you can have 2 coon there, and I've had this happen many times, 2 coon here, 2 coon there, and 1 here. This one is always the tail. You see the tail floating. When you pull in there, the tail's floating. A lot of times the coon in the fish stick sets are dead also, but a lot of times they're alive. So that's 1 stop. You're going to pick up multiple coons. So all my drowners are on my DPs are all 5-foot drowners, and I make them myself. And I use 1/8-inch cable because it won't kink up like the lighter cables will, like your snare cable. Okay, so, and it's fast. It's super fast. And when you're catching that number of coon, you gotta keep moving fast. I start off at daylight and I take off at dark every day. Now, I'm a guy that likes to stay organized. So I hate to have a whole pile of these laying in the bottom of the boat all jumbled together. So because of that, I came up with a system to keep everything organized. And I've cut this plywood just to fit inside of the plastic milk crates. I also have some wire ones, some real heavy wire milk crates. So that's, and you can see this was just broom handles that I cut that long, screwed them in through the bottom, and I can put a dozen DPs, put it in there, and I can put another one on top. So in a milk carton, I can have 24 DPs. And it's very, very organized, very easy. Nothing's snarled and messed up. I'll set that trap and I'll have it baited before, just say it's opening day. So the night before, I'll bait the trap and I'll set the trap and I'll put it on here. So when I'm out hitting the trap line, all I gotta do is take that off there, uncoil it, make my set, and I go on to the next one. It's fast. So, like I say, I like to stay organized. So that's what I do there. That's what that thing's all about. It's just to keep things nicer. Okay, let me see what else I can tell you about. Beaver trap. I do a lot of beaver trapping, and everybody's got setters, but these are the locking type, and I'll show you here. Just real quickly. I got some bait on this one, but I don't always bait my conibears. One time I was trapping, actually at a convention. I had heard a trapper talking about trapping beaver under the ice. And he said, and I'd never heard of it before, but he was talking about chopping a hole in the ice, just big enough to let a conibear down, setting that conibear, baiting the trigger, very much like I've got this one baited, and just letting it suspend under the ice. He put a log across the top to keep it from going down through, and I thought, that'll never work. But that next winter, there was a guy that contacted me that beaver were cutting all the trees along his property, along a creek, and he wanted those beavers out of there. Would I go and take care of them? And I said, yeah, I will. So I went to set that up, and it was all hard rock bottom. And no way to get a stake in. And I thought, I'm going to try that. And I did. And the very first night, I had a beaver. And the next night, I had a beaver. I got 6 beaver out of that one spot just by doing what that guy said. Just suspend that. And it don't matter how deep the water is, just suspend it. And they're after that bait. Now this is dried up. I did a demo at the Beaver Fest in Fairfield, Iowa in May. And I went out and I freshly cut some little pieces of willow. And that's how I bait the triggers on my 330s, just like that. And beavers see that, and they come along, grab a hold of that, you got them. Just like that. Now, what I was going to show you here is, as far as these setters are concerned, when these 330s first came in existence in America, in the United States, I got one. And when they first came out, instructions said to set them with a rope. And so that's how I didn't know how to set these by hand. So I use a rope. Rope like that, and you just loop it through a couple of times, have a loop on the end of your rope that you can put your foot on, and then just pull the rope, and that pulls the springs together, and that's how I set my traps. So that's slow. So eventually I learned how to set these by hand. And it's not all that bad once you know how. It's just a matter of leverage.
Yeah, my friend, but if you do that every day, all day.
Yeah, that's hard on your hands. It's hard on your body. And like I say, I'm 77 years old. I'm getting older now. You young guys, maybe you can still do it good. You can see I still can, but now I started using the setters, and I've got 4 or 5 different setters. My wife runs a trap line down on our creek for coon using 220s, and so I've got setters for her. But again, at a trappers convention quite a few years ago, somebody had these that have this catch on them. And I bought, and this here's the exact pair that I bought. And what you do is you reach down here. Well, you guys all know how to do it. There, it's caught. You don't have to, it's so simple. My wife, most women are not as strong as what us guys are. My wife can easily set these with her pairs of these. And she does. Young guys like this, you don't have to use a rope. You're not strong enough. I don't think you're strong enough to set like this. But anyway, with this you can do it. So I bought into that, and I use these, and I really recommend them. Okay? So that's just another little tool that I use. This one? Oh, I don't know, but it's pretty old. Now, let me tell you this. I started trapping in 1960 when I was 12 years old. I've trapped every year since then, except for I missed 1968 because I was in Vietnam then. But anyway, I never had much money. So I always tried to make everything I could. If I saw something that looked good, I'd try to duplicate it, make it, whatever. When I really got onto these 330s and started using a lot of them, I bought a lot of them. Now we're talking a lot of years ago. Back in the 60s, the late 60s and early 70s, I had a lot of these. And there was no other brand at that time. What there was Victor Conibear. Well, I've used the Victor Conibear every year since then. I've picked up a few other brands here and there, but in reality, why do I need? Because these work so well. Now, if I was to start over, if I was a young person starting today, I might not choose a Victor Conibear. I might find something that's a little bit better. But I've got all I can ever use the rest of my life, and I'm not going to change. I'm not going to spend the money to switch things over. Same way with the 220 Conibears. When I invested a pile of money in 220 Conibears many, many years ago, I learned to use them, and I'm still using them. Now again, yeah, they're all Victors. Yep. If I was to be starting off new today, I might look at some other brands because there's really good stuff out there. You got a lot more choices. But when I started, I didn't have all those choices, and I've made do. And I've learned how to use them. And that's whatever you've got, use it and learn how to use it and go from there. Now, so I talked a little bit about Beaver. Before I get off from that, let me get rid of this. Almost all my beaver trapping is all done with either 330 Victor 330s, or I use number 4 Victor, or Blake and Lamb double long spring. I've got both. Now again, some of these are well over 50, 60 years old, and I learned how to use them, and I still use them. When I caught my first beaver in 1963, and I wasn't strong enough to set that trap myself. I learned real quick, but I can still set these traps myself by hand, just like that. But I'll bet this young man may not be able to set that by hand. But you can, and I'm going to show you how. There's a trap setter called the Jiffy Trap Setter. These have been out for a long time. They came out in like the 30s. Anyway, I never had a use for these all these years because I could always set them by hand. Well, again, now that I'm getting older, it's harder to set. So you can take one of these Jiffy Trap Setters and put that over that spring, right there like that, and use the leverage and push that down, and that spring is set. Take another one and put on the other side. Put it down. That trap is ready to go. All you got to do is open it up, set it. Now for a lot of years, many years, I used to do a program called the Outdoor Journey for Girls. It's for 12 to 15-year-old girls to learn outdoor skills. And I went for many, many years, and I did a trapping segment of that. And again, girls aren't as strong as guys, but I had all those 12 to 15-year-old girls able to set these traps and other traps by using a Jiffy Trap Setter. And now that I'm older, and I'm going to go out and set a dozen or 2 dozen of these in a day, if I set them by hand at night, my hands hurt. But not with these Jiffy Trap Setters. So I always carry the Jiffy. That's the way I do it now. And as you can see, I've got these all set up on drowners. Again, 1/8" cable. And these are all set up on, I think these are 6-foot cable, maybe 7, 8, these are 8-foot cables, but I also carry some 10-foot cables with me in case I get in an area that I need to have a little bit longer, a little bit more length. So that's just another little tool that I use that works. If you buy these new, they come with a little clamp, a little heavy metal C that, in theory, if you just use one of these, you can put that on and then put that clamp on there and hold that spring while you use the other one, while you set the other one. I don't recommend using those clamps. You're gonna lose them. Okay, now I trap a lot of muskrats. Now, what do you call a lot? Again, every year for many, many years, well over 1,000 rats a year. The best I don't know, I can't tell you how many I caught in 1 year as far as my record number, but I can tell you this, I caught 1,132 muskrats in 10 nights 1 year. Okay, so I'm trapping a lot.
Did you
Now,
sleep much?
huh?
Did you sleep much?
No, I didn't sleep much. Now, tomorrow I'm going to do a demo, and I'm going to talk, and I think I'm on at 11 tomorrow, but I'm going to be talking about just muskrats. I'm just going to do a demo on muskrats. But in order to I use almost all number 1.5 long spring traps, and I use 110 conibears. And I've modified almost all my 110 conibears to where I've got a stake on them, so I don't have to be hunting around for stakes. But that's something that I made myself, and I use. Today, if I was to start off, again, There's a lot of different brands of 110s out there, 110 size, and they're making and I'll show this tomorrow, but I don't have a 110 with me. But these are the holders I would use now. When I'm dry land trapping for fox or coyote, this is my dirt sifter. Heavy rubber band. The only thing I have in here is I carry my pan covers and I carry my little whisk broom. I don't carry anything else in here because I don't want any other smells coming through on this. But so that's what this is all about. This, if it's really muddy out, wet ground, I can kneel down on this and without getting my knees all bad. Dry land, use them. This keeps the lid on. It keeps my whisk broom in there, and it keeps my pan covers. Okay, I always carry, and I do use snares. I'm not a big snare person, but I do use snares. I told you I carry extra drowning cables with me. 2 different lengths. I forgot to bring something. I left it over, but that's all right. We'll do that another time. And I always carry my snares. And again, I don't have any recommendation on particular snares. There are so many of them out there, and there's good ones. I've made most of mine myself a lot of years ago. If I was to buy new ones today, I'd probably go to J.D. Rogie, Roadrunner Snares, or I'd probably go to, there's a lot of good people out there. So we're just talking about tips and techniques and different things. I always get yourself a good pair of snare cutters. Really good, not some cheap stuff. And the good one's going to cost you a lot of money. $40, $50, $60 a pair for these. And I went through several that were fairly cheap, and then I found these. They're made by Shimano, and they came out of Japan. They're super hard steel. When I got a really good pair, and I liked them, I went and bought another pair. So I keep a spare. I think I had it in there. Well, that's not the same one. I got another one in there, but I always carry extra ones of them. The S-hook tool. I was going to show you. This S-hook tool has been the most common one around that you see. Somebody at a trappers convention had ones like these. And I'm kind of a gadget guy, so I thought, you know what, I'll get one of them and I could use that for a pattern and make some more. So I bought it, but I've never made any more of this particular one, and this works far better than these kind, far better. So if you get a chance to see any of these around anywhere, I would highly recommend them. As far as opening S-hooks, just use it for a lot of things. Safeties, be sure to use safeties on your conibears. I do. I always carry spare tags with me, always, because coon will eat up your tags, and the last thing you want is to get a ticket for not having a tag on a trap. Now, most of you know I was a game warden for almost 30 years, so I think it'd be pretty poor policy for a game warden to write a ticket to somebody for a trap that didn't have a tag that got chewed up by the coon right then. But regardless, every time I check a trap, take a coon out, I just do a quick visual check to make sure that tag is still intact. And so I carry extra ones just in case. Putting up muskrat, I always put up my muskrats. I always skin them and I stretch them. I flesh them and stretch them. For fleshing, here's what I use for fleshing. You can pick that up at any trap supply dealer. And I've made a little fleshing beam just for muskrats, and it sits up on my bench, and it sits up high like this, so I can put that muskrat on there, and I just pull it down, and I can take it. I put up 99% of my muskrats I put up on wire, and I do that for a couple of reasons. One, they dry quicker. They dry a lot quicker than on boards, and but something you got to do when you do on wire is you got to pull them down, and then once you have it hooked in, then pull the sides down and use a clothespin on them, and that'll hold that there. And you're gonna, if you don't, you're gonna be losing about an inch off from every muskrat. That inch can make a big difference when it comes time to selling. So I have a big bin full of clothespins. So I pull that muskrat down, I pull the sides down, and I pin it, and I clothespin it. Now, I said most of them I do on wire. The ones that I don't do on wire, the ones I'll do on wood, is any muskrat that has some damage to it. If it's got a cut in it, I'll always put it up on wood. And the reason for that is I can pin those holes and on this wood, and it looks a lot nicer than if you try to repair the ones on wire. On the wire, if I have a hole on a muskrat hide on wire, I use a T-pin. If it's on wood, I can use a push pin. So I use wood to put up any damage, and I use the push pins to close the cuts. And if you do it really good, a lot of times they'll go through as even undamaged. Now, small muskrats, anything that's going to grade a small, I always put up on wood. And the reason for that is a small muskrat has very thin belly skin. And you put that up on a wire, and those wires are all spring steel. And very often that'll tear that muskrat. If you put it up on wood, you can bring her down, pin it, and it keeps from ripping that belly. So always use wood for small muskrats. That small muskrats, they're not worth very much, but if it's ripped, it's worth nothing. At least you'll get some money out of it if it's on wood. Excuse me?
Do you trap any mink?
Yeah, I do trap mink also, and I put all my mink up on wood. There was a time I used to put them up on wire, but they look so much better putting up on mink. Or putting up on wood mink stretchers, yep. Yep. Okay. You might wonder what kind of a little thing that is. What's that good for? Well, if you're putting up on wood, and I used to do my beaver on wood. Now I do them all on hoops, but that was to pull the nails or my push pins. Just put that under it and push it up. Brings it up really. That's homemade, and it works really, really good. I'm just about out of time here, so I open up my beaver. with a hook tool. You can open them up with a regular knife, but I open them with a hook. And I do my tails the same way. I open up my tails on my coon or my mink, coyotes, fox. On my workbench, my skinning bench, this is what I use for a tail puller. I have this bolted right onto my bench, right at the very edge, and I open up the coon, and I've got him ready to pull the tail. I put the tail in there, and I'll just let the weight of that coon, if it's a heavy coon, big coon, it'll pull that tail right now. And again, that's homemade, just out of a piece of metal. And but anyway, I do my muskrats. When I'm skinning muskrats, get this open here. I'm going to show you something that I don't use a gambrel. I used to just sit on a chair and have a gunny sack across my legs and skin that way. But now I've built a really nice long workbench, and I keep my tail puller on there. And I also have my muskrat skinning. My muskrat skinner is this. It's just a big swivel that I opened up the eye of a hook and put it back on. The hook, regular fish hook, I've taken the barb off from it. So now that's screwed on the edge of my bench. So I reach down, I grab a muskrat, and I put that through his tail, about halfway the length of the tail. And then I'm able to grab a foot and pull, and that stretches that muskrat. And that makes a perfect line for running your knife from the foot to the tail. Then I grab the other foot, pull, and because it's sitting there like this, it's pulling that tight, and you've got a perfect line to run your knife to open up that muskrat. I can normally skin a muskrat in about a minute. The way I do it. So there's a lot of people that might be faster, but not too bad. When I come in and I've got 50 muskrats sitting on the floor that I know I'm going to have to skin that night, in my mind I know it's going to take an hour. So that's not too bad. Does anybody have any questions at this point? I always keep a steel right there at my workbench also, and when I'm touching up one of my knives, it's just, and that knife is ready to go. I use this one mostly for coon and fox and coyote.
What time do you go tomorrow?
Anybody got their paper on them? I've got it right here. 11 tomorrow. Yep. Now another thing about the steel is when I'm opening up coon, and I get the coon pulled down to the front legs, and I can work this in, and then I can pull really, really quick and easy. I'm out of time, and I know somebody else is next, so I'm gonna hang her up here, and like I say, I was just filling in for Larry Carls, so here we are. Thanks, everybody.
Good job.
Yep.